The last stage of conquest, the Cantabrian Wars. The Cantabrian Wars, 29 to 19 BC, were fought between the Romans and the Cantabrians and Astures of northern Hispania. It was a long and bloody war because it was fought on the mountains of Cantabria and Asteria, which are mountains which are very difficult to conquer, and because the rebels used guerrilla tactics effectively. The war dragged on for 10 years, and it ended in subjugation of these two people. When these wars ended, Augustus annexed the whole of Hispania to the Roman Empire and reorganized the provinces. These wars were also the end of resistance against the Romans in Hispania. The causes of the war are unclear. We hardly have any information about their first years. Before the involvement of Augustus, the first Roman emperor, the only extant writing on this war, apart from some references in passing by other authors, are a brief account by Florus and another equally brief one by Orsius. Both authors concentrated on when Augustus was engaged in the war. Florus wrote that Canterbury tried to domineer their neighbors and harass them, carrying out frequent raids on the Oricons, who lived between the Atlantic and the source of the river Ebro, to their east, the Corgoni, or Termungi, in the area within the Arlanzon and the Arlanza River valleys in the modern provinces of Burgos, to their southeast, and the Vasai, in the northwest of central Hispania, to their south. Orosius wrote much the same. We do not know whether, or if so, how much of the part of this played in the outbreak of the war. Augustus took command in 26 BC, the fourth year of the war. He left Rome in 27 BC. There were rumors that he was going to conquer Britannia to perform a great military feat. Instead, he undertook the reorganization of the Gallic provinces that had been left largely unsupervised since the conquest by Julius Caesar in his Gallic Wars, 58 to 50 BC. He might have seen the war in the next door Hispania as a chance for military glory. He reached Tarraco in eastern Hispania in 27 BC, but he arrived in the area too late for the fighting before the winter set in. In terms of personal propaganda, these wars became his war, even though he fought for only a campaign. In 27 BC, he retired to Tarraco due to illness. Cassius Dio wrote that he fell ill from overexertion and anxiety. Gonzalez Echeverri places the involvement of Augustus in the political context of his task of delineating and defending their frontiers of the Roman Empire after the Roman civil wars. After the conquest of Gaul, there was no more room for expansion, and there was the task defense for attacks of the borders in Europe in the face of reduction in the size of the Roman army. In economic context, there was a question of control over the rich gold mine at Las Madrulus in Astoria and the abundant iron ores of Cantabria. Toward the end of the Roman civil wars, there was a shortage of gold and silver. In 29 BCE, the Roman commander was Titus Stellius Taurus. In 28 and 27 BC, it was Sextus Appuleius, who celebrated a triumph in 26 BCE. Augustus started his campaign in 26 BCE, after having established his quarters in Sigismunda, the capital of Termungi, who most obviously had been Romans' allies. 3 divisions attacked 3 points. The first one fought a battle under the city walls of Valencia, and enemy fled to Mount Vindius. This opened the way north, enabling the division to join the forces who had landed on the coast and attack the enemy at the rear. Due to the rugged terrain, the Romans decided to starve their entire army, starve the enemy into surrender. The second division moved east and destroyed Acercilium. The third division moved west into Galicia. The enemy made a final stand in Mount Medilus and Sierra del Marmd, close to the river Sil. It was besieged with a ditch 15 miles long. It capitulated in the winter. Many committed suicide. Augustus came from Tarraco, where he had gone due to illness, to receive the surrender in person. In 25 BCE, the war was fought only against the Astures. The Romans were led by Publius Carcissus. Despite the reverses of the previous year, the Astures went on defense. They came down the snow-covered mountains and encamped on the river Astur in the plain of Leon. They split their forces into the columns to attack the 3 Roman camps. However, they were betrayed by one of their tribes, the Asturus Brigensi, who informed Carausius. He attacked them by surprise and pushed them to Lacinia. He besieged the town, resisted fiercely, and seized it. The capture of the other strongholds completed the conquest of the district. In Rome, the door of the Temple of Janus was closed. This symbolized peace, and the war was considered over. However, the Cantabri and the Astures soon resumed hostilities, and the war continued for another 6 years. Still, Augustus was able to claim the glory of victory. The defeat of the Cantabri and the Astures marked the end of the resistance against the Romans in Hispania. Despite the war lasting 10 years and the fierce resistance by these two peoples, it seems that there was no rebellions in Hispania, not even by the neighboring peoples. Even though the written history is very thin, it is likely that the rest of the peninsula, after the previous pacifications, had become quite integrated into Roman administration, administrative systems, and economy. Augustus annexed the whole of the peninsula to the Roman Empire. The Roman provinces of Hispania Crator was significantly expanded and came to include the eastern part of central Hispania and the northern Hispania. It was renamed Hispania Tarraconensis. Hispania Ulterior was divided into the province of Baetica and Lusitania, which covered the present-day Portugal up to the river Douro. The present autonomous community of Extremadura, and in small part of the province of Salamanca in today's Spain. After the wars, there was an increase in the Roman presence in Hispania. The Romans deployed 8 legions for the wars. Many of the veterans who had the right to be granted a plot of land to farm on discharge were settled in Hispania. Several Roman towns were founded. Augusta Emerita in 25 BCE became the capital of the province of Hispania Lusitania. It was probably founded by Publius Carcissus. Asturica Augusta in 14 BCE became an important administrative center. Colonial Caesar Augustus, or Caesar Augusta, in 14 BC, and Lucius Augusti in 13 BC. It was the most important Roman town in Galicia. The Roman presence had probably increased during the 1st century BCE as a number of Roman colonies were founded in this period. Colonia, Clunia, Sulpicia, Capera, and Complutum. Augustus also commissioned the Via Augusta, which went from the Pyrenees all the way to the Candies. It was 1,500 kilometers or 900 miles long. This rounds out the conquest of what was modern-day Portugal. The next chapter we're going to talk about is the Romanization of the now Portugal. So join us next week as we continue on the series. And don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, check out my YouTube page, check out my Instagram page, check out us on Twitter, and our website, eattomyownbeat.com and eattomyownbeat at Facebook. Thanks again for watching. Take care.